Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Voice of Adoptees, which brings together diverse and unique voices from around the world to share their stories. If you like today's episode, remember to give us a like, subscribe, and leave a review. Here's your host, David Shunk.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Voice of Adoptees. Today, we have Annie as our guest, as we are going to dive once more into the confusing, I guess you can say, world of adoption, and we're going to hear what she has to say about that. So, Annie, welcome. We're glad that you're here.
Thank you. I'm really honored to be in this, actually.
Well, I appreciate that. Let's start off with fun background details about you. Tell us about yourself, where you are, what you do for fun, favorite food, if you like cooking, Russian food or anything, or...
Yeah, so I am 24. I'm from Houston, Texas. Been here since I was adopted, which I was adopted in the year of 2002, I'm sorry. My favorite food, sushi, completely opposite of Russian food. Recently discovered a Russian store in the city of Houston and kind of dabbled in some food and, I'm kind of learning how to correctly make Russian food. But, the starting base right now is where I'm at.
Nice. What type of food are you trying to learn?
So I saw this eggplant sauce that they had there. I have no idea what it is. It's kind of like a tomato base,
Is it it's not borscht, is it?
I have no idea. I don't know the name, but I saw it and it had eggplant, tomato, and I thought it was interesting. So,
well, that's definitely okay. Yeah, I honestly have no idea at the top of my head. Usually, when you hear people starting to try Russian food, the common one is borscht, because of the beet soup and everything, or something, I don't know. But anyway, sounds like you're off to a good start. Let us know how it comes out, and that'll determine if I want to come have a bite of it or not.
Will do.
So, Annie, why are you here?
So I recently found my mom, and it really, opened my eyes. It made me feel a certain type of way. And not only does my background have some storyline to it, but I feel like finding my, real mom has made me think differently about the world. So I thought, the Voice of Adoptees was the perfect presentation of explaining all of that.
Well, that's definitely why we're here, to listen to everyone's point of view. So you recently found your biological mother. And now, where is she located? Is she in Russia?
She's in Russia.
Okay,
Yeah.
What part?
So I have the name, but I'm so Americanized that
it's okay if you can't pronounce it. But do you know if it's near the capital?
So I know it's 8 hours away from where I was born, which was Arhangelsk or Arkhangelsk, or however you may want to say it. So 8 hours south of that.
Oh, okay.
I don't know the name. If I looked it up, I could.
Yeah. Okay. Well, how about we backtrack a little? I guess, when did you start to feel the need to look for your relatives in Russia?
Yes. So it was actually 3 years ago. And I was, let's see, my 20s, my early 20s. I'm 24 right now. But anyways, early 20s.
Yeah, so that'd be 21, 3 years ago, right?
Yeah, so it's 21.
See, I can do basic math.
I love it. So it's 21. Someone recommended this lady in Idaho or Ohio. I can't really remember. And so I messaged her. I said, hey, I'm actually really interested in finding my birth mother. And so she's like, yeah, of course, we can do that. And I said, great, here's the documents. Thankfully, my adoptive parents saved everything. So I had, my mom, my biological mom's name, birth year, birth date, the whole enchilada. So when I gave it to her, I was really excited. And so fast forward, months pass, months keep passing. I message her, hey, any update? No updates. 2 years pass, still nothing. And at that point, I kind of lost hope. Emotionally, it kind of...
Wow, 2 years, huh? Jeez.
Yeah, 2 years of... It was a recommended source, too. So it wasn't like a, random person on Facebook or, internet, and you're like, hey, can you find my mom? It was a, credible source. So I was really ecstatic. I, had the energy, the mental awareness of, finally ready to see who my biological mother was. And so, 2 years passed, nothing. And at that point, it's a long story, but I kind of gave up and stopped communicating with that lady.
Okay. Wow. I mean, I can't imagine just the anticipation alone. I'm sure you probably were losing hope. I mean, 2 years is a very long time. And you mentioned, you asked your adoptive parents for the names and all of this. Was this the first time that you were interested in learning more, or did you ever think about it when you were younger, or was this kind of spur of the moment? I mean, can you kind of walk us through a little bit of what really inspired you to suddenly say, "Hey, I want to find out"?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. So, growing up with my adopted parents, I was emotionally, mentally, and physically abused by my mother. And it's a long story, but basically, I my mental capacity wasn't there to think of my birth parents or anything in that sort. And so, as I got older, I got rid of the toxicity out of my life. And so, when I hit 21, kind of got rid of it. I was kind of mentally ready finally to see who my real mother was. So that's kind of the opening of that.
Wow, yeah. Well, that makes a lot more sense, and I'm sorry you had to go through that. That's really unfortunate, and I wish I could say I could relate, but we're there for you as best as we can. So, if you need anything at all, let us know. I'm just glad that you were able to grow up and, be the bigger person in the room, so to speak, and get past that and get to where you are today. So that shows a lot of character and a lot of strength. So
Yeah.
I'm proud of you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're not alone. I've heard stories that are similar to yours about that, where unfortunately, for whatever reason, the adoptive parents and the adoptee just they don't click and causes issues down the road. And I'm sure you're able to tell us some about that. But let's go back to a little bit more happier thoughts. So we left off with 2 years waiting and nothing. So what did you decide to do next?
Yeah, so my fiance, he was there by my side through this whole process because it is a big deal, to find your biological mother for, after 20, 23 years of, wondering, hey, what does she look like? Blah, blah, blah. So we tried to even get the cops involved to see if we could, get the lady in trouble for kind of abusing that system for people who are looking for their, their biological parents. Because emotionally, I think that's the most traumatizing thing that you could have when searching for your parents. So yeah, that was the first part.
I'm just curious of how we got to, you were looking, and then all of a sudden.
Yeah. Okay, here I am. Sorry, I was like,
no, don't worry, don't worry.
Because I have a tendency to talk too much. But anyway,
yeah, believe me, I get that every day. It's okay.
Okay, perfect.
we can bond over that issue together.
So we got rid of that lady, and one day I was looking at that Facebook group. I think it's, Russian adoptees. And
Yes.
Somebody had posted this, recommendation of this lady in Russia that had found her parents in a week or 2 days or something crazy like that. And I saw that. And so I screenshotted it, and mentally I was like, I'm going to wait because I don't think I can handle just yet to message the lady and get back onto this train because it was really emotionally traumatizing. So fast forward, there I am adding this lady. Within a couple hours actually of speaking to her, I got some information about my biological mother.
Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about, and I've worked with her a little bit in the past. And, I've on the side done some searches for people in the past, and she is amazing.
Phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Her connections are legit and everything because what she does is she works with people who work at the registration office. Go figure. So
beautiful.
It's
straight to the source, right?
Literally, it's like, okay, what's the name? All right, search if they have a valid passport. They have a passport. Boom, there's the name. Here's relatives. Done. I mean, it's about as simple as you could get. Yeah, that's amazing. So, when you first got this information, what were your thoughts? Like, what were you feeling? I know that's kind of a too broad question for such a deep thing, deep discovery, but. You probably remember where you were sitting, what time it was, what you were doing. Because I do when I first found results, but let's hear yours.
So mine is kind of crazy because I'm a photographer and real estate photographer. And I was out flying a drone, taking some
jeez.
photos. I know, this is insane.
Oh, boy.
Taking a photo of a property line, because they're selling the property. And, WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger actually notified me. I don't know how we started the conversation, but she knew my mom's name and her birth year, and she said to me, "Your mother was convicted of murder and grand theft. So,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So that was I was flying a drone, and I said, "Wow!" Like for probably 2 minutes straight, I was like, "No, I'm in a dream right now. I'm literally in a dream," because it was so already overwhelming to see that she could find my mom, but to figure out that
to have those results.
to have that quick result. In my mind before, I was like, my mom's going to be like something major in Russia, because I am like, my personality of who I am, I feel like stems from my biological mother. So I'm tough, I'm hard, I'm a hard worker. Like, she's going to be somewhere in Russia, like just busting her butt. Like, she is working that, in Russia, she's just, crazy. But ironically, she murdered someone. So,
wow. So, number one, did the drone that you were flying, did it land or did it crash?
Well, I have a self-landing.
Good. Okay, making sure. All right. Okay, number two. So when you found this news out, obviously this wasn't what you were expecting. Did you kind of freeze? And I mean, how did you overcome with these results? Did you have a big discussion with your fiance? Did you call your best friend up? Did you need to go vent to someone? I mean, or did you just take time to kind of ponder it and just think for yourself?
Kind of like both, to be honest. When I found out, I put my drone down, I flew it back down, and as the drone was coming down, I had these cars passing by, and I just had tears coming down my eyes, because I wasn't expecting that my mom had done such a crime. So after the realization of what my mom did, like I said, I cried and went in my car and just kind of sat there for a second, and then called my fiance. And I kind of had like a panic attack when I called him, because it was really coming into my mind of what I just discovered of who my mom was, I was thinking to myself, well, like, she killed someone. Do I have that type of trait? Am I going to go kill someone? Is that why I watch so many murder mysteries? Like, it was like equal, like 1 + 2 = 3. Like, that's why I watch murder mysteries, because, my mom killed someone. And so all these things were coming into play. And, I kind of like a panic attack. Like, I had a straight panic attack.
Well, yeah, that's very understandable. I mean, no one's blaming you, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I can see why you immediately associate, every single action you've ever done since you were 5 years old to this new piece of news. But I'm not a therapist at all, or a doctor at any kind, but it just sounds like the human brain kind of likes to overanalyze situations that we can make sense of something. And unfortunately, that sounds like that was the line you kind of drew right away, was you associated all these negative things to finding out the negative news about your birth mother. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you got the results about your biological mother, did you get any results about any additional family members, or have you asked or tried searching for anyone else, or is it just your biological mother right now?
Yeah, so after that, I kind of got really addicted to trying to find like any information. Luckily, after the fact, I got a picture of her due to the passport, which was really another huge situation. I asked if she had any other kids. No kids. I was the only child. I asked if she was married. She was never married. She was the only child. My grandmother died really early, 1991, I believe. So yeah, it was a really small family. And so right now I'm actually trying to figure out, who my grandmother was and why she died so early and what she looked like, just to see if I can get some more like understanding of where my traits come from.
Right. Makes sense. Did you, I'm sure you tried to look into the father's side and probably didn't get too far, if I'm willing to guess.
Yeah, so the weird thing that I noticed was only the females in Russia, you have the date of birth, whereas the males, such as my grandfather and my father, there's no date of birth. There's only the first and last name. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't heard that particularly, but I wouldn't say every adoptee. A solid 90+% of either a fake father's name on their document, or it's just the guy that they happen to be married to at that time. So, like, for example, on my documents, it was a gentleman that my birth mother happened to be married to at the time, and she just listed him as my father, even though he wasn't.
Oof.
Yeah, so it's kind of confusing. I don't, it's just kind of just angers me in a way, because I feel like back then they had no idea the repercussions that this is all going to cause 20 years down the line.
Of course.
Obviously, they weren't thinking that through real well because it really did a lot of damage to a lot of people. Here we are now picking up the slack, so to speak.
The pieces of the puzzle and
Exactly.
the pieces of the puzzles don't fit, and it's just like, yo, what happened here? Like,
Exactly.
weird.
Exactly. So now that you have this new information, have you tried any contact to the birth mother?
Yes, I did actually.
Okay. Are you willing to share about that?
Yeah, like I said, I'm completely open.
All right. Well, how about you tell us about that? How did you go about, what did you say? I'm sure that's a pretty lengthy question, but yeah, why don't you just tell us about that?
So because she got arrested so many times, there was her address on her criminal record. So, by the way, side note, turns out she didn't murder the man. She stabbed the man with a knife, but he did not die. So she just got, I guess, probation is what we call it here in America. So she got like 2 years of it. So just FYI. But it was crazy because I was like, the lady told me my mom had murdered someone, but then it turns out, it's like attempted murder. But it's still like a very like, lots of emotions there, but
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be going around being too proud about that, but
yeah. But just side note, she didn't kill someone.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm sure that gave you some relief, so that's good. Okay,
close to it though. So, anyways, so her criminal record had her address, and I wrote down, started writing stuff, and I wrote basically. To summarize, I said, I love you. I do not judge you. I completely understand why you may have given me up for adoption, like the reasons. If you want to talk, I'd love to. And if not, I totally get it. And so when I went to the post office, they said they do not accept mail in Russia.
Oh, was this recently you tried to write?
Yes.
Well, I mean, Russia's on pretty much the do not fly, do not contact, do not send anything list at the moment.
Yeah.
The best method I would do, before I give any advice, have you tried any alternatives?
Yes, I did.
Okay, well, let's hear what you did first.
So I asked the lady who found my mother. I said, would you be willing to do it for me? Here's the mail. And she said, yeah, I'll do it. And so she did it. It was, I think, roughly 2 weeks ago. So nothing bad.
I was going to say that was my little piece of wisdom, was to reach out to the investigator and have her deliver the news herself. Yeah, I'm sure that your biological mother is probably in shock. So she's going to spend a lot of time thinking about it. And hopefully, at least that she has confirmation that you're okay now. And usually that's, there's a lot of things a birth mother is curious about, but after talking to a lot of adoptees and about their experience and talking to my own biological mother in Russia, she would tell me that, every year on your birthday was always very hard because it was a constant reminder of giving up a child. So the whole thing about all your biological parents gave you up, they never think about you ever again. I think it's totally false. It's like, you bet she did every single year on your birthday. It's kind of hard not to.
Or moments. I was thinking that too. Like, if I had a child, I would probably have bursts of, just as I was a child thinking about my biological mother. And still to this day, I'm like, I wonder what my mom is doing right now in Russia. Like, I wonder if she's okay. Like, it's got to be the same type of flip on the biological mothers or fathers as well.
Right. No, absolutely. I totally agree with you. So basically, right now, you're at the waiting game of waiting for a reply from your biological mother, or did you receive one?
No, and mentally I made a note to myself that most likely I will not receive one because my mother, I did a lot of, not investigation, but a lot of understanding of who she was as a character and person. And she seemed, and like I think a lot of people in Russia are very low income.
Yeah.
Maybe low intelligence. I'm not sure. And especially with what's going on right now, I think that's the last thing on her plate that she wants to deal with. And so
yeah, I was going to say, don't take it personally, but if the searcher mentioned that you're in the United States, for her own safety, she may not be reaching out to you either.
Yeah,
because even just mentioning America, it's just a very obviously difficult situation right now. So time will tell. That's usually the best that we can say. Unfortunately, it's not the best
Time.
solution. Yeah,
And
but
time, like time that I picked to communicate with my mother is the
yeah,
worst
I
time
mean,
too.
but really, is there any good time?
True.
I
Amen to
mean,
that. Mhm.
yeah. So I mean, don't
Yeah.
take it personally. Just think about the fact that you went 20 plus years, and she went 20 plus years waiting to hear anything if her daughter's alive, and now all of a sudden, boom, she's alive and well, and she reached out, and now she's waiting. So your birth mother's definitely thinking a lot, no doubt. Even if she doesn't reply right away, I wouldn't take it as a bad sign. And as long as you keep in touch with the investigator, and I'm sure she probably left her phone number with your birth mom, and said, if you have any questions, let me know.
Yeah, I wrote the letter as, to have closure in a way because I figured, like I said, with who my mother is, I don't know if that's with everybody's mom, but my mom, she's like in and out of prison and jail. So I don't know if she's in the right state of mind either to that effect. And so me writing the letter was more so like, hey, I'm here for you. I love you. I accept you. But, not literally, but in my brain, I'm like, if you're not going to respond, it's okay because I said what I need to say and here's some pictures of me. Love you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you did the first step, and I mean that's the hardest part is being the person that makes the first step and figuring out what to say. I just couldn't imagine finding out going. I mean, it just blows my mind that you waited 2 years and then all of a sudden went from that to hours. It's like
I know, that's what I'm
it's,
saying. I couldn't believe it. I was like, it's like you have trust issues with people too with that. I'm like, are you sure this is my mother? Like in 2 hours, you know this? And the other lady's like, yeah, I'm still trying to translate the Russian documents. I'm
right,
so
right.
sorry. Oh my
Well,
God.
no, I could definitely see that, and I can understand that, and that actually segments into a topic that I want to give you the opportunity to give your thoughts on. Is there's a lot of, I'd say, negativity that stems from being adopted, and necessarily it's not our fault for most of the time. It's not, but it seems that a lot of adoptees, as they get older, they start complaining and saying, I guess complaining wouldn't be the right word. It'd be experiencing. That's a better word.
Yeah, that's great.
They're experiencing. Yeah, trying to be nice because we all have similar situations. We understand each other. Whether it's anxiety, whether it's problems with relationships, whether it's separation anxiety, whether it's difficulty. Like you just mentioned with trust. So I guess in terms of being adopted and having all these different mental health topics thrown at you, because that's a really big part of why adoptees like to learn from each other and figure things out with each other. So in your experience so far, have you gone through your life so far having any of these challenges, and how have you been managing them?
Well,
Big question, I know.
it's a big one. Yeah, it's huge. It's humongous here because, like I said previously, being adopted and then on top of that, like having the adopted mother abusing you, there's a lot of emotions to it. I don't even know how to start with that. Yeah, honestly, it's such a difficult question to answer because I stem from having regret as a child due to what my parents did, meaning the direction of where I was going to, like my path was very different. I don't know, I'm not explaining it right, but
No,
basically
no, it's fine.
if you're adopted with, regular family members who promote, you know, going to school, doing sports, doing all these different things, being a healthy individual versus those parents that are not in the best interest for yourself, the child. You don't understand it at that time, but here I am, 24, almost 25. Thinking back is I have a lot of hate and regret of where I am in life right now because I feel like if I had healthy parents, I would have been in a better situation right here, right now.
Right. Well, I can understand that feeling. Did you grow up as a single child, or did you have any other siblings, or?
So the family is very complex. So my adopted mother had her own child, and then my adopted father adopted myself and that child. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Okay. So it was like a stepson, but he eventually adopted that stepson.
Got it. Okay.
So I had a quote unquote brother, yes.
Okay. Now, Did he have any of these similar feelings, or do you think, or was it just geared towards you?
So what happened basically was my father didn't know, but my mother loved her son, but she hated me, despised me. And so what ultimately happened was she would do everything for the son, send him to a private school, do all these nice things for him. For me, I was left, with nothing basically. It's a very complex situation, but that's basically it.
Wow. I've heard situations similar to that where you get given up for whatever circumstance, abroad, and then you get adopted into a family, and it's almost like it's just happening again
Yeah.
right in front of your eyes. It's like you're being ignored, you're being neglected by
Yeah.
the family that's supposed to be loving you and not making you feel neglected. Yeah,
Yeah, like giving you
that's
like when you sign the documents as the adoptive parents, it says, like I literally looked at it, like saw it a weekend ago. It said, will you make sure that you take care of, your biological son and adopted daughter at the same rate as the same type of love? And yes, we do. We do. And it's like, people, no, it did not happen at all.
yeah. No,
It's crazy.
that sounds challenging. So, would you say that a lot of these feelings started in Russia and got amplified in the United States, or do you think are you basically blaming how you were raised by your adoptive mother in the United States for these difficult
Upbringings, basically.
yeah
Yeah.
yeah
So, like I said, I think if I was raised with a different family, I would have been in a different situation. Um, going to, some big school and this and that. So I think it does stem from the adopted parents, not the biological. Because I was, 4 or 5, and people always ask me, they're like, do you remember Russia? And I'm like, I don't actually, really don't remember anything. I remember a smell that my dad has, his cologne, and it gives me some type of, feeling of Russia, but that's really it. That's all I can think of Russia.
wow. So, despite being neglected in terms of feeling like you weren't your adoptive mother's daughter, right? Did you develop any other, I guess you can call them issues as you got
Mhm.
older? Have you experienced any, problems with relationships or identity issues? Because I know a big topic people like to talk about is how they identify. That's a big, not just being adopted. We're talking about in terms of how they identify as people overall. In the last 10 years, you've had an increase of, the big movement of gender equality, and
Mhm.
everyone's now spending the time to really focus on themselves and who they are. So, have you had any difficulty about, being adopted, calling yourself Russian, calling yourself American, and, have you had any of these, I guess, troubles pass by at one point?
Yeah, and I think it actually goes deeper than just like who I am, whether I'm Russian or American. I think it goes deeper than that. It goes so deep to connecting with those adopted families and also friends, relatives, people in general. I find myself to kind of be mentally older than the people that are my age. I tend to see myself never liking people that are my age because maybe they're just immature or they don't have the same, not that I'm being like boastful of myself, I'm childish sometimes, of course, but I think because of my background, I have a different outlook on life. And so I feel like I have issues with not only friendships development, but also the adopted parents. So I speak to my father still. I don't speak to my mother, but, even speaking to my father, I feel this lack of the deep connection that you are supposed to have with your parents.
Right. And because you didn't feel like you had this deep connection, were you hoping to get it from your biological mother?
I thought about it and I said, well, most likely she speaks Russian and I don't. And so there would be a language barrier. And if we did have a community, like a relationship, I think it would be awkward. I think it would be weird. I would be happy, of course, mentally and emotionally, but realistically, it's been 25 years and different worlds. We come from two different backgrounds.
Right. Now, I could see why you would think it's, it definitely, I mean, the language barrier alone. But
Yeah.
you know, yeah, and it's hard growing up. You have a feeling like you don't belong,
Hmm.
and as you get older, that can really mess with you in a lot of ways that people don't even really recognize. Have you tried, I mean, to further deepen your connection to Russia? I've heard a lot of stories from adoptees of, you know, they start cooking just like you tried to do. They start trying to relearn the language or join a local Russian community. I know you're in Texas, and they have a lot of Russian communities down there, pretty big ones actually. Have you ever thought about trying to join them or, get yourself involved in the culture and the community to try to really deepen your roots and explore that side of you?
It's been very light.
Hmm.
Starting with my eggplant sauce. That's the start of it right now.
There you go. All right.
That's the start, and on top of that, I got a Russian doll.
Oh,
It's on my nightstand. So it's soft waters, but it's definitely exciting, and I definitely have future visit Russia once it's a okay to really get into the the culture and the people and food. I love food,
oh yeah. No,
especially. So I'm really
big.
excited.
Yeah.
Food and
Oh, I'm a big foodie myself, and some of the food there is unbelievable. There's this restaurant in Moscow that I recommend, and the capital over there.
Mhm.
I recommend to anyone that goes there. It's called KB44. That's the name of the
Oh
restaurant.
wow.
They have this meat platter where it's like a combination. So if you're vegetarian, sorry, you're not going to like it, but
No, I love
it's
meat.
it's a combination of like beef and pork and chicken, and they have
Oh
of
yeah.
course they have sour cream, and it's
I
just
have a question for you
uh,
because the fact that I know that you've been there,
yes, yeah,
I just had this discussion with my fiance. We
yeah.
were at HEB and he's getting ice cream, and I'm like, I just like I don't like sweet things, and I like I don't know if this is just me or if this is just Russians or whatever, but I love salty foods. I don't know if is that normal there or what.
Well, they are very big fish eaters, and they also love to put like caviar on blinis, which are the thin
Yes,
pancakes. They like vodka and pickles. And I'm not being a
I love
stereotypical person by
pickles.
saying vodka. They really do like it there.
Yeah.
But pickles, they love. My family in Russia, my grandmother, especially at the dinners we had over there, they'd always have pickles available. Dill, dill's a big spice over there,
Oh,
as you know.
beautiful. Okay,
So
cool.
kind of salty dill, and then sour cream on everything possible. I mean,
Oh, I love
it's
that too.
it's
That's so cool.
heaven. It's heaven,
I
honestly.
love
Yeah.
sour cream too. I
Oh,
mean, but
I do too. It's
like,
it's magical. Yeah.
but I'm always wondering. I'm like, did I get that from my mom or like the orphanage? Like, do they just serve salty foods there? Because like, I have cravings about salty foods. I
It
don't have
it
cravings
depends.
about sweet.
Yeah, it depends on the orphanage. I mean, depending on how financially stable it was back in the early years, and of course when you were adopted. I mean, for people, I was adopted in '96,
Mhm.
and in the '90s, born in the '90s, shortly after the Soviet Union fell. So Russia was pretty extremely poor. The government wasn't even fully functioning. Orphanages weren't even getting money divvied out for their use. So you had a lot of directors from these orphanages traveling around trying to find like food
Foods.
and the necessities for the children. And luckily, the orphanage I was from was pretty nice, actually. But I will say, I visited my orphanage when I was back in Russia, and when I
Wild.
when I walked in the door, there was this smell of, it was definitely like a soup. Maybe
Mm.
I don't know if it was beet soup, borscht, or it was just potato soup, but it definitely smelled like cabbage, and they're big on cabbage, of course. But it was this welcoming, home smelling, like this. It
Mm.
just felt recognizable, and yeah, it was just undescribable. Like I just walked in, and I just felt like I was.
At home.
At like your grandmother's house. You walk in
Oh
the door,
yeah.
and it just
Yeah.
felt like, hey, I may not remember being here, but it smells like I do.
That's amazing.
It was pretty cool. But so to answer your question, yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert, I'm not, but given on what foods they eat usually, I'd say they love salty foods. I mean, fish and the caviar on top of a lot of things, and they put it on bread, they put it on pancakes, they put it on, yeah, between that and their pickles and dill, yeah, I'm pretty sure they like it salty, as long as they
So
chase it down
they
with a
like
shot of
the
vodka.
pickle
But
sauce, right? The pickle sauce.
oh, you're talking about,
What am I
oh,
thinking?
yeah, no, I know what you're thinking.
Right, that's
But
the thing here in America, but like I wonder if it stemmed from Russia.
Honestly, I couldn't tell you that, but I know what you're talking about, though. But definitely, no. But it's a fascinating country to visit. The culture is so rich, and the history is so rich, and it is. Russian people are known to be one of the most hospitable people in the world, in my opinion. And it's unfortunate that the impression that they send to the world is that they're an angry group of people that
Stern.
hate everyone. But it's
Yeah.
just the way they act is it's just in their culture. They don't smile at strangers. They think it's
Yeah.
weird. And if you're not family or a friend, they won't smile at you, and that's just how they are. And the second largest thing I noticed was when they ask you, how are you doing? They expect a full answer. Like when you ask someone in Russia, like, how are you doing? They're going to tell you about they're going to tell you about their health. They're going to tell you about their financial status. They're going to tell you about their kids' health. They're going to tell you about your grandmother's health.
I love that.
Yeah, so they really get deep with you real
It's real conversation.
yeah, it's not like in the U.S. It's like, hey, how's it going? Good. Yep.
Good.
Bye. It's like
It's
like, yep.
terrible.
Nah, that's a whole other topic. Yeah, so
Right.
yeah, so just kind of recap a little bit.
Yeah.
Right now, you found your biological mother. You're hoping to get any more information on any other relatives. You're waiting to hear back. Let's say in 5 years, this is just hypothetically speaking,
Mhm.
5 years, the situation in Russia has calmed down. You feel safe that it's okay to travel back. What would you like to see in the country?
No, I thought about it already. I would probably visit my orphanage and maybe even sneak by and see my mom and see where she lives first. And of course, food, but those are the two.
Right. Well, I mean, definitely the food. Yeah, no, but that's great. So in the meantime, what have you been doing to stay busy? Have you been indulging yourself in Russian every single day, or are you trying to find other things to keep you busy? I mean, it's pretty easy to get lost in this stuff.
No,
Believe
amen.
me.
I mean, that's the thing is you have like even this previous Saturday, my dad gave me all my Russian documents and started looking through all of them, reading about my mom, reading about my adopted parents, and going maybe too deep into it. And so I try to balance it because I think you got to have some healthy balance in this type of situation because I think it can go too deep and too dark, and you have too many thoughts.
Yeah, no, I totally understand what you're saying, but it's very easy to obsess about it, and I think we all go through a phase where we honestly do obsess about it because it's so unique and it's so it's full of emotion. I mean, it's exciting. It's something new. It's like the unknown. We want to learn as
Yeah.
much as we can about it.
To add to that, I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt,
Oh, don't be. Go ahead.
but to add to that, that brought something into my mind is we go so deep into our thoughts about our biological parents, our who we are as people, as adoptees, that people from the outside tend to not really understand what we go through. I found that pretty big when I started dating my soon to be husband. His family are French and they are super close. They are super loving. They are always on top of each other, always communicating, always talking. And, I had a really difficult time being in that situation because for me, it's like I never got that type of love.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when people speak about it, of course, they're very respectful, but I don't think they understand the depth of what we adoptees go through, whether it's finding our biological parents, whether it's us feeling lost as individuals, whether it's us just, we are not connected as to humans on this earth that are with their biological families. It's just this grasp of like, I feel like not understanding. And that's why I think a lot of people who are adopted have that sense of disconnection, misunderstanding.
Yeah, you're referring to a big gap that we experience and others don't.
Yeah.
And I agree with you 100%. That was very well said. And part of the reason why I started this podcast was to promote a sense of understanding, not only for adopted individuals like you or me or anyone else, but for those who aren't adopted, like, maybe adoptive parents have been listening to try to figure out some tips of, how to deal with their kids if they want to find their families. They want to hear what other adoptees experience, so then they can be prepared. Of maybe we might have questions, or our intent is it's a positive one. Even if we talk about negative experiences, it's all about we're getting together, we're beginning the conversation, and that's the big selling point. Really, is we need to promote that adopted children exist too in the world. Our thoughts matter, our feelings matter, but as you said it yourself perfectly, there's still a lot of misunderstanding around the field of adoption and deep down inside of what we go through that people don't understand. So if we keep sharing our story and we get out there like you're doing and others, and I think it's great. And I think
Yeah.
a really positive message that you could send, actually, I just thought that, if you're comfortable doing this, I'd recommend starting like a blog and talking about this and just getting your word out. Because, I mean, even
Oh,
people
I'm
are going
so
to
antisocial, though.
antisocial. You're on a podcast talking.
Well, this is the first time in
It's.
my life,
I was going to say,
life, that
our
I've ever spoken about this, and
well,
I do it because there's been a lot, but I tend to close myself, so this is a big step.
it is a good step for not just yourself, but for a lot of people. And just so you know, we get hundreds of views, so you're going to get your message out definitely. So that's great. You know, you've been fantastic this evening.
Yeah,
Your
I
message is
appreciate this.
strong and positive, and you're definitely going through a lot, but you have a sense of I think understanding that it's difficult and it's going to be difficult at times, but you have the drive. I can feel it, and that's something that you should hold on to. So I'd like to give you just a few minutes to pass on some words of wisdom from Annie. I was trying to come up with a phrase like advice. Oh, advice from Annie. There we go. So go ahead.
As a Russian, always keep your ground. And I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, because you brought up the sense of being very level-minded personality, and I think it might stem from where I am
I
from.
thought you were going to say stubborn, because Russian people are very, very stubborn.
Well, I was going to say that too, because we are. And to end on this, I totally feel what people go through, especially adoptees. And I think the best thing to think about is what you've done so far as a person and how far you've come, because I think this is by far the hardest thing to go through, being adopted and figuring out your life kind of by yourself. So, all I can say is just keep going and don't let others put you down.
Yeah, that's very good advice. Keep going, and no matter what is thrown at you, you are a perfect example of how you can overcome these, difficulties that you've been facing so far and are going to continue to face. It's going to be challenges. I mean, that unknown is still there for you because you're still in the early stages of finding your, biological mother. So who knows what can happen in the next 5 years or the next 6 months, So you're still living in that period of uncertainty, but just know that the adoption community is pretty powerful, and we're strong. We're all here for you. And again, thank you so much for sharing a very deep side of your life. And I know it's difficult for some people, but you did it very eloquently and
Thank you.
almost like you've done it before. But
no, maybe in my brain, like over and over and over again of my life, I'm like, man, this should be like a documentary, because I think a lot of people would probably understand, or adoptees could relate heavily on this, because like you said, it's just not spoken about, and it's not a thing. It's not a crisis. It's not a problem in the world, but it is a problem. It is a thing. It is the lack of self there.
Yeah, and we're providing another tool for people to hopefully heal wounds that they have.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great stepping stone. Annie, thank you again so much for stopping by. Please keep us updated on your journey. You can stop by anytime. Love to hear any news from you at all. But really, again, thank you so much for stopping by. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much. I'm very thankful to be here.
Thank you. Advice from Annie. That was advice from Annie. Thanks for stopping by, everyone, at another episode of Voice of Adoptees. We will be airing new episodes every Wednesday morning. You'll be able to hear Annie's episode in the coming weeks. If you know someone who's adopted or you're adopted yourself, feel free to stop by, sit down and have a friendly chat with us. We'd love to hear from you. You can find us on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google, pretty much every podcast out there, Spotify, and on our website, www.voiceofadoptees.com. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to Voice of Adoptees. Please take a moment to like, subscribe, and leave a review. See you next time.